I shall. We are going live. It's not telling me we're live yet, but
yeah, I got a live thing in my screen. Well, like in a red thing. Yeah, so you'll find.
Right, we're live. So that's good news. Well, anyway, today I was going to be talking to people about how you been, by the way. Just you know, how you been?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's all good. Been busy, very busy, but yeah, it's all So can't believe it's yeah, well, we're halfway through February, aren't we? Jesus,
crazy.
Crazy.
And that's something that leads nicely in today's sort of theme, really, which is we've talked about a lot in the last 12 weeks, a lot, and I made a list last night, thinking to myself, okay, so what have we actually spoke about? And I was quite surprised. And these are some of the things we've spoke about in the last 12 weeks, right? Embracing things and doing them now rather than waiting. Don't wait for perfection, right? And I'm a great believer in that. It's just jumping in there, because if you wait for perfection, you'll never get it, right? Another thing we talked about, rethinking resolutions. We spoke about New Year's resolutions in November last year, and we were saying, well, why'd you have to wait till the end of the year and the new year to start fresh? Think about revisiting all the time, you know, and we're doing this now. We're doing this and looking back, and then in order able to look forward. Why just wait to one point in the year to do that? So that was another point we made, right? We talked about the focus and the art of concentration, because it's easy to lose focus and not. When you get focused, it's this super powerful. It's like a superpower in a way. We talked about maintaining motivation when things are 100%. You know, where things knock you off balance. It's maintaining that drive. And how do you do that? You know, we talked about like life's negative interruptions of overcoming obstacles. You know, because shit gets in the way, doesn't it? And we also spoke about balancing obligations like Christmas and New Year, because we did that. We did that Christmas Day and New Year's Day, because we made a commitment, and sometimes you have to sacrifice some obligations. And we didn't. It was half an hour out of my day. It was half an hour out of your day, both days. It didn't cause me too much grief. We didn't. You know, it's not as if we've got to spend hours and hours and hours on it, but it was that commitment and making sure that you don't get knocked off balance again by other obligations. We talked about overwhelm, strategies for coping, you know, when you get overwhelmed. We talked about managing expectations when you get a setback. Is managing that. Do you remember that? That was how do you deal with it when you get something that really knocks you back, right? We talked about delegation and time management, maximizing efficiency. We also talked about commitment to success and sacrifices and prioritizing things, because sometimes people demand our time, don't they? You know, you've got to have little here, or can you do this, or can you do that? So that's another one. We talked about embracing uncertainty, thriving in the unknown, because you know you're starting something from scratch, or you're going into a new. My learning curve has been vertical in the last 4 months. I don't know about yours, but on this new technology, what do you do with it? You know, it's embracing that as well, that unknown factor. Where's this all going? We talked about effective planning, setting up yourself up for success. We talked about emotional intelligence, you know, negating your feelings through the process when you're feeling negative. Yeah, I reached out to you this week. I felt shit last week, absolute shit. Horrible it was. There was 3 days I wasn't functioning. How do you negate that? How do you deal with that? You know, that's what we spoke about before. Having the courage to outreach and grow your business. We talked about the 2020 rule, maximizing productivity. We talked about power teams and leveraging on them power teams. We also talked about consistency, building habits for success, self-discipline, and embracing obsessions. You know, if you get obsessed with things, and having that drive for determination. So we've spoke about a lot in the last 4 months. You know, it's a lot of stuff there. And I'm compiling that into an ebook this week, which people will be able to get hold of, and we'll let people know how they can get hold of probably by next week. It'll be available for people to download, because I think it's really valuable. When we look back on it, at the time, you don't see, people are getting a little bit of impact on it, but this is a substantial amount of stuff we've packed in the last 12 weeks. So what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think, when you think they're all pretty much half an hour sessions, aren't they? So what's that? 2, 4, 6 is about 20 sessions, aren't there? 2,
18.
4, 6,
18. 12, I think it's 12. Is it 12 weeks? Or is it 16 weeks? 16 weeks.
6, 8, 16. 10. Yeah, so it's a lot in there. So that's like 8. That's 8 hours, 8 or 9 hours.
Yeah. And it's funny because looking back on it and the different, because I wanted to just look at the themes that we were doing, because usually when you're doing it each week, you don't notice how much information you're collating. So I'm going to really delve down into each one of these. So that'll be quite interesting to see as it comes out as an ebook and sort of takeaways that people can utilize in their entrepreneurship, their small business, or if you're starting something from scratch, because these are the sort of. And it's funny because I was thinking about it this morning, because I'm embracing a bit of new technology with this, and this sort of, again, leads really well into what the accountability network's about, right? And I was asking myself the question. I was using ChatGPT to organize a few things, and thinking, well, am I cheating really by using ChatGPT? But I'm not, because the concepts there, all that information is very personal. It's things I've experienced, you've experienced, and if you asked ChatGPT just to come up with a list of things that people should be aware of in starting up a business or an existing business, or just general, it would just come up with a generalized, synthesized load of nonsense. I think it's the sort of stuff you can find in a book, but this sort of stuff isn't. It wouldn't come up with this sort of stuff, because this is the stuff that's real. That's the stuff that we go through. And it's more emotional. So it's having that focus on, this is what I want to deal with, this is what I want to do, and then expanding on that, and then using technology so I can compile it within a few days, rather than taking me, say, a month or 2 weeks to a month or something, real hard graft. So it's embracing that technology in a way where it serves you. It doesn't control you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think don't forget that's a list. I mean, those subject matters of what we've decided to talk about over those 4 months. So I think it's not like we're leading with the things that are like important that we think. So then you're putting that into an artificial intelligence system and saying, pluck out some things, and then obviously just depending on what resonates. But at the end of the day, there's going to be nuggets in there, isn't there, for everyone that are just gonna
and it's funny because it's artificial intelligence is only as good as the prompts you give it. And if you're giving it prompts that's not normally the normal stuff, you can get so much more out of it than just the generic synthesized nonsense. I see it all the time on reels now. You see where they're artificially generated, the content's artificially generated, and they look good for a little while, but they soon date very quickly, because it's the same regurgitated crap all the time, as opposed to if something is very thought out and very personable. Because most of these things here we was talking about, when you're overcoming overwhelm, most business books don't talk about that, do they? Most information about business doesn't talk about overwhelm, wanting to throw the computer out the window, or it doesn't talk about the sacrifices that you might have to make on Christmas Day or New Year's Day, or sometimes. I mean, I've worked as self-employed. What it done was it gave me freedom. And I've had businesses in the past when you've got an office and you go to and you work from that office, but mine's always been about I want that freedom to do what I want, when I want, whenever I want, not have to be chained to a desk. I'd be like a caged animal if I was in an office all day and I had to go there. And so I like that flexibility. I like that freedom. And that's the reason why I got involved in business in the first place. And that comes with its own challenges and stuff like that. And there's not many business books that build a business around that sort of thing. But it gave me the option to work when I wanted to work. And I had the freedom to choose to have my kids or go on holiday when everyone else didn't have to. Everyone else, I used to love having that freedom during the day of being able to do what I want when I want, as opposed to having to work at specific times. And so that flexibility I get. And so all these things that I've plucked out, or we've talked about in the last 4 months, aren't the usual stuff that you would get somewhere else.
No, 100%. I think I think it's just like what's the most important ones, aren't they? Like you say, and it's obviously not the ones that, the sort of the ones that are all sort of like shiny pennies, or the stuff that people love talking about, don't they? It's probably the ones that are probably going to hold you back the most, I think, isn't it? It's a lot of mindset stuff, isn't it? And about basically changing, putting some of these into place. And that'll make a massive difference to, at the end of the day, it's trying to remove barriers, isn't it? That's what it's coming down to. If you could dismantle, barriers and roadblocks and stuff like that, then you're going to, it's like a game, isn't it? You're just unlocking another layer, aren't you? It's and then you can put into place certain things. But it's the reason we don't do things is often because there's a preconceived thing in our heads telling us we can't do it, or we shouldn't do it, or this is going to be the problem if we do it. So it's trying to address those fears, really, isn't it? So I'd say, it'd be interesting, but a lot of them are going to be coming from that angle, I would say. Stuff that
it's the emotion, it's the emotional part, isn't it? It's if you think about most of that is emotional. And I think what I think a lot of generic stuff miss out is that business is just as emotional as it is some sort of process, because the person that's running it is an emotional human being. This is the reason why computers will never have that
sentient.
Sentient. I don't think they will anyway. They can't feel like a human being if you haven't got neurons running through your body where you're a physical squidgy, not a physical, not a piece of metal. It's never going to have that. And I hear this on a regular basis from different people about that fear factor of starting and being perfect. It's got to be perfect before I get a video out. I don't want to do a video because, and the thing is, today's business is all about videos or getting yourself in front of someone with a camera, as opposed to the old days. It was you just had a little bit of text. And people, if you think about how you consume nowadays, it's most of your stuff is probably video. It's probably some sort of, whether it's a reel, whether it's a short, a video on YouTube or some sort of advert. It's usually video, and so people are concerned about how they come across. They're concerned about their time. They're concerned about the people. Can they trust people? Because that most entrepreneurs get burnout because they take on too much, because they don't trust anybody else to do it for them, because no one else is going to do it to the same standard as they do. And that's a lesson I learned years and years and years ago, back in probably 1998, when I had my first business with staff. I realized if I get 70% out of one employee, I'm doing really well, because the average is probably 50% of what I would produce. So if you get 70%, you've got a superstar. If you've got 50%, you've got someone who's just, average or above. So it's understanding that these people aren't going to do it the same way you are. Or that's why entrepreneurs burn out. That's why people get overwhelmed. That's what, because they're just taking on too much, because their fear of this, they're never going to do it the same way that I do, as opposed to just getting it out there and just doing it and then mopping up afterwards. Because most of the time you're going to get it right. It's not going to be as perfect as you want, but you'll get it right. And if you're doing it from a place of authenticity, then it's going to be okay, and people will forgive you. They will forgive you. So there's lots of stuff to talk about there. What's out of all that stuff we spoke about? I spoke that big list. What was the one that really pinged you, or was there a general thing that you think that's a great theme? Or
I think it's just habits, isn't it? I think it's the one. Is it? I think persistency, isn't it? It's like they used to get some photographs, didn't you, of like a river, and he cuts through a rock because it wears it down over time. And I think some other analogies, isn't there? Like you can have I think I've seen one, like a flame burning quite brightly for a little while, but then obviously other images of candles burning over a long period of time. So I think consistency is the key, isn't it? I think it's just, I suppose that's just.
It's funny you say that, right? I'm just going to get my camera so I can show you.
Yeah.
That is consistency, right? That's
yeah.
That's every single video I've put on YouTube over my 100 life lessons, and I do that daily. And I always sticker up on that wall, because then I can see it on the wall on the flip chart, because I can see it every single time. I can look at it. I know I've done it. And then once I've done that 30 days, I'm going to flick it over and I'll do it again, and I'll do another 30 days. And it's having that. That's a must. I don't even know where that's going, John. I haven't got a clue. I don't know where that's going to be in a year. All I do know is since I've been doing what I had a vision in my mind, is I'm getting traction, and it's and I'm trying different things, and it's that unknown. It's that I haven't got a clue where it's going to go. I've got an idea of where I want it to go. I've got the big idea, but how I get there, I'm just coming up and making up as I go along, and I'm sure people will forgive me if I make a fool of myself, or it's not quite right, and I don't mind that. And that's the difference. So that really runs into what you were saying there about habits and persistency, because I'm a very determined and persistent person. I've always had that, and I know you are very much as well.
Yeah, and it's all, I think, and also it's trying to, I suppose it's all trying to, these small changes, isn't it? But I was at the cinema last night with my 3 daughters, and quite interesting when you sort of walk through on a Sunday night, and I must have counted. There wasn't that many people in the cinema, which was like 9 o'clock Sunday night. So it's probably 50 people in there, 40, 50 people. But it's interesting to count. There's about 2 or 3 people on their own at the cinema, and it was just like it was interesting to me. It's just like that. It's like who would go out for a meal on their own? Who would go to the cinema on their own? But I just think like you could almost tell a little bit about those characters, can't? Some people might say, oh, they're a bit of a, loser or something like that. But I think they're happy in their own skin. They're sat in, they're doing what they want to do when they want to do it, and they're just not giving anything about the noise around them. So that's good mental strength, I would say. Just a simple thing.
Have you ever gone to a restaurant and ate on your own?
Yeah, and cinema. I think I've even gone to a comedy. My daughter couldn't join me until sort of the second half, so I even went to a comedy thing, which is quite brave, isn't it?
No, I'm talking about actually gone because you're going on your own.
Yeah.
I do it. I eat on my own regularly in the restaurant. It doesn't bother me at all, because I look at the way this way, right? I don't see it as it's food as this. We've got. It's a ritual, because I think that's what we tend to do, is that we look at eating as a ritual. It's a necessity for me as far as food is concerned. It's energy, if you think about it from a basic point of view. When I get my family together, we go out. That's a different kettle of fish. You know, that is a ritual that we would go and enjoy ourselves. And I never worry. And I think this is the key. I never worry what people think. You know, that's their business, not mine. It's their business. I really don't mind if they, as you say, some might call you a loser. And I was cutting up a video earlier about boozing, and I think I mentioned in that video about FOMO, fear of missing out. People have got this real fear they're going to miss out on something. That's why they need to be with somebody else, or making sure they're with their mates, or because they're going to. Have you ever seen someone who has food envy? Like, you go out with a few people and I wish I'd have had that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never done that myself. I've always looked at it this way. I look at the menu and think, what have I never had before? Let's try that. Or I say to the waiter,
yeah, that's what I do. I always say to the waitress, yeah.
And someone said to me, they're only going to give you the shit stuff that they've got left over. And I said, are they really? You might look at it that way. I think they might say, try that or try that. You know, I think people are more genuine than that. That's me. But it's interesting. Interesting conversation. We can go run down that. But yeah, habits and persistency are very important. And I think the thing that overriding thing that came out of all them today, or last night when I was doing them, was the emotions side. There's a lot of emotional stuff in there as opposed to just straightforward. Of course, there is practical advice, but it's trying to get people over the hurdles, and the hurdles tend to be themselves. They're in their own way. It's like, there's the reason why I can't do it. They'll find a reason not to do something because they don't feel comfortable doing it. So, and as I said earlier about me using AI to help me with the ebook, and I had a bit of an issue with it, so I had to deal with that. You know, I was aware of it. It was sort of it was a bit of friction. Dealt with it. Right, okay. I now know why that was, and then I represented it in my brain, which was no. The core of the ideas and the prompts are driven by my mind, and I'll use the technology to leverage that. Not can you give me some ideas I can use, and I can. I don't do it that way. So, but again, it would be easy for me to go. Oh, actually, I'm not going to do that because it doesn't feel. I don't feel comfortable. I was aware of my emotions, and that's what I ask people to do: is be aware of their emotions. You know, we'll give you the details of where you can get a hold of a copy of this, but this will help you. It will make you think: what can I do? How can I deal with that? And that's important.
Well, also you'll get sort of like, I mean, it's the old cheesy thing, isn't it? The Pareto effect of 80%, 20% type of thing. But you know, it's there for a reason. But you know, if you've got a list there, and even if you just pick 3 of those that resonate with you, you know, the ones that, you know, really, really resonate with you, and you think, right, I'm going to master those 3. I mean, you're going to get such a massive kick forward by just, you know, dealing with, you know, it's that sort of almost like eat a frog for breakfast type approach, isn't it? It's like, right, that one really resonates with me. That's, I mean, basically, you just want to do an order of which of those out of the 18 or what, which of those 3 are really holding me back. You know, and you're going to see some massive upscaling of pushing you on 100%, because that's it's basically like SWOT analysis, isn't it? You're just working on your areas to improve, basically.
Yeah. Again, it comes down to focus, doesn't it? As we spoke about earlier. Well, and you'll get more of what you focus on, and as soon as you start, okay, so this is the area I'm going to master. And it's interesting. It's flipping, right? You know, I'm the master at flipping. It's flipping the problem or the issue. He's looking at it and going, okay, so what's the solution to this? As opposed to, I've got this issue. I need, no, what's the opposite? So we always tend to see our weaknesses. Well, what's the opposite to that weakness? What's the opposite to that way I'm feeling at the moment? I.e., I see me this morning. I'm looking at the problem I had was I can't use artificial intelligence to help me with this because it's cheating, as opposed to then, no, okay, how do I deal with it? And then looking at it from a different perspective. And so flipping it on its head, which is, no, it's not. It's just helping me. It's leveraging it. It's finding one thing there, flipping it and making it positive that you can then utilize and turbocharge.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Last night it was I don't know, it was last night at the cinema or something I was watching on telly. But you know, you look at AI and people are like, oh my word, what's the world going to be like in 10 years time or 15 years time with AI in it? But then whatever I was watching on the TV, it was a film or something like that, and they were using typewriters in the film, and it just cracked up to me, because it hit me in an instant there. Like, there must have been people using typewriters when the computer came in, feeling exactly the way we're feeling now. But then, you know, you just embrace it, don't you? And like, would you? I mean, yes. I mean, I suppose for like people are going back to a bit of vinyl and things like that. You know, for sort of like, you know, it's quite trendy, and I'm sure there'd be people using typewriters for, you know, just a bit of fun. But you wouldn't want to
and it's funny, you say it's a bit of fun. That's what nostalgia tends to do, is it invokes feelings, you see. So we're linking our emotions with that act of I'm remembering, because I'm reminiscing effectively. You know, you're going back. I mean, I've got an old 90s Merc in the garage, convertible Merc. Takes me straight. As soon as I get behind the wheel, it's got the same sort of signature old Mercedes look about the 1980s and 1990s had. They're very, very different than the new cars nowadays, but they had a sort of screwed together way about them. And you had the silver star on the bonnet, and it just takes you back. You know, you don't matter what car you're getting. I mean, they're so much better than that old Merc, really. I mean, it was ahead of its time, but they're so much better. But the thing is, you're reminiscing with it. So there's a different dimension using something from it's got a bit of nostalgia. So an old typewriter would do that for someone. I sent someone actually because a client of mine was talking about a typewriter that she remembered, and it was an anchor for her, and I just sent her the audio file of a typewriter it might, but again, vinyl does that, I think, for some people. You know, I was never one for vinyl, because I understood where it came from, but I always loved CDs. I don't know why. I just so. But you're right. I think I noticed you can tell synthesized material today. You can tell it. You know it's not right. You can tell that someone posted a picture on Facebook yesterday. Oh, and it's wonderful. It's a baby next to a dog, and they were going, it was artificial intelligence, and they couldn't see it. I know it's a genuine photo. It's up somewhere. No, it's not. It's
I think some you can, some you can't. But again, that'll come down to the prompt on it, and how trying to you know how unusual the circumstances are, so that, you know, your brain is going to have to look at that and say, what's the likelihood of that actually happening in real life?
Not so much that. I think again, you can sometimes tell. I mean, it's not 100% yet, but some of the videos I watch, and you know that someone's artificially uploaded their voice, and it's a clone of their voice, because there's certain stress points in the language they use that doesn't sound right, and then I switch off. As soon as I realize it's artificially done, I'm not interested. I'll just switch it off, because I won't watch it. If someone can't be bothered to even use their own voice, then is it really worth watching? You know, we're talking about,
it depends where you're coming from. I mean,
it's like Formula One stuff, right? Where you get someone who would have normally spoke it, but they've cloned their voice, and now they're using artificial insemination. I don't know why. Artificial intelligence, and I think that's laziness. That's taking that's synthesizing it too much.
Yeah, I would probably come from the position that my person might be scared shitless to put them.
No. These are people that used to do videos and do their own stuff. Okay. Now they're using artificial intelligence. It's you know it's. I've seen their videos before, and now they're using technology, because I get where they're coming from. You don't get the takes issue like you would if you was editing issues. I understand why they do it, but no.
Okay. There we go.
All right, well, that's a round up for today. I'll make sure that's available for people to download somewhere. We'll let you know, and we look forward to speaking to you next week. But
next week. Have a good week.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.